Okay, turn it on.
Okay.
Ah!
All right, so now let's try to move it in. So if it turns off, we'll see.
I just need to study some more after the.
I just
we
moved
can only
someone
watch
in.
one
Did it
episode,
turn off?
okay?
I'm gonna move.
No,
people in.
look
We
at
only watch one
I can no longer
episode.
move people in now.
I told you, bro. What is it doing?
Yeah, but I want to see
damn.
OmniFlow's
My
face.
hands are
Oh yeah, no, I
freezing.
can't move others.
Yo, I can stream it whenever you guys want onto Twitch.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Then
Yeah, just
you
tell
can
them to
start
watch
one
it
of us will
on.
make
Just
them,
tell
we'll
them to
put it
watch
in
it
there.
on Twitch. They don't have to join.
Wait, how is V-Bone here? What?
Alright, hold on.
White might
Hold
have.
on.
No, I didn't unban him. I think White
You
unbanned him.
wanted to.
All right, it's fine, it's fine. We'll figure it out after the debate. We'll figure it out after the debate.
Why unbanned?
Wait, y'all banned V-Bone? Why?
Yo, I can stream
Everybody,
it whenever you guys
except for the
want.
people that are supposed to be talking, mute. So Tyler, Wizard, who else? I think that's it. But yeah, everybody mute, and we're going to be starting probably in the next 2 minutes.
Based.
Okay, so I just want to go over the rules one more time. So how the debate will work is the first affirmative will have a 2-minute introduction, which will be Hazel. He will also state his stance. Because he is fighting against the status quo, he will have to the initial burden of proof falls on him, correct?
Why not?
Okay. Oh, Hazel, are you watching? Okay, OmniFlow, you are watching. Oh, good. Then it's going to go to the first negative, which is a 3-minute introduction, rebuttal, and stating stance, which is going to be OmniFlow. Then the affirmative again for a 2-minute evidence build. Then the negative has a 2-minute rebuttal and evidence build. Then they have a free-for-all for 10 minutes, which may or may not be extended if it needs to be. Both sides will speak and refute each other immediately. Then once we have the free-for-all period, no matter how long it is, the affirmative will have a 2-minute final stance. And then the negative will also have a 2-minute final stance. Introduction, and if need be, at the very end, we may also have another back and forth. Then the affirmative again for a 2-minute.
Hell yeah.
So now that the rules have been stated, I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to ask Mooney, Wizard, who else? And Aggie to mute. And Hazel, you may begin.
Just a second before we start.
Here, I put the link in debate 1, by the way, if you want to
OmniFlow.
send the announcements to the Twitch.
Why? You lost so hard last time, unanimously, and you never showed your face in uncensored debates again, and you come here and challenge me again to a debate? Why? It's suicide.
All right.
Oh, I mean, I was expecting you to respond. Okay.
We will start now. Go ahead.
All right. What's a nation, guys? A nation is a collectivization of the people. That's what it is. It also is tied to a state. A state is more or less a government. You can't have a government. You can't have a functioning country without a homogeneous society. Look at Yugoslavia. What happened? There were Serbians, Bosnians, and Muslims, I guess. And they were all slammed together in this country due to random kingdoms and all this sort of stuff that just made all these people live together under the Yugoslavian country, and it balkanized. There were concentration camps for children because brown people, white people, and people of different cultures and religions lived together. I don't want to see that happen. I mean, as much as OmniFlow and all these liberals want to think that I'm some murderous madman, I'm not. I don't like to see people die. I don't like to see children get gassed and tortured. I don't want to see all these war crimes happen, especially not in the place where my grandparents are buried. So, I don't want, really, a mixed race in this country. I want to quote Gauss's law. Given that there are two different species competing for the same niche, in any extended period of time, there'll only be one species. Whether that will be one will kill the other, or they'll mix together. That's all I gotta say. That is very much the situation in America.
Okay, thank you for that. OmniFlow, it is going to be your turn for the rebuttal and your evidence, and you're stating your stance.
All right, yeah. So my stance, it's a simple one. Immigration is by every metric that you could ever account for beneficial for the United States. At least I believe that's what we're pertaining to, especially because at the end is what you say. You don't want America to turn into a place like Yugoslavia. The problem you happen to say when you bring up different countries like Yugoslavia, it's a completely different climate. It's not United States as it is today. We can look at problems attributed to immigration in the United States and then think about if it's bad or good. I'm going to make the claim that there is almost no problem with immigration in the United States as of today, especially when we look at things like the economy, the culture, societal cohesion, all of these aspects based through immigration. And immigration is a big part of the United States. That's where we get a lot of people. The United States is a melting pot, as a lot of people like to call. It's always been a nation of immigrants. It's perfect. So when we look at all these aspects and we find out these aspects have to do with only immigration and none of them are really bad, you can maybe like wiggle in one or two bad things about immigration. However, they are either A, greatly outweighed, or B, nothing that I'm actually pertaining to. Immigration can be bad in an extent where if you take on too much immigrants, it can be really, really bad, especially for the economy, which is really all I care about. But when you look at it in a broad aspect pertaining to the United States, which I would like to keep this discussion focused on, because the United States is currently one of the most developed countries, so I think a developed country going through something that we see no actual harm from is a good metric to see if it'll work or not. So if we stick to those cases, I think we're able to understand something. King Hazel goes through a lot of weird points, I guess. A state is more or less a government. Not necessarily. You could have a government without a state, and that's what I kind of argue for, but that's beside the point. And you can't have a government without a homogenous society. That's a really interesting point. I think we can look at a lot of examples. One that we're going to be talking about is the United States, where we have a government. We don't have a homogenous society. It's an extremely multicultural society with a bit of assimilation where we all kind of group together as the term melting pot. And then you talk about different species. And I think that's a ridiculous notion based on the idea that we're the species of Homo sapiens. Like, that is our genome. We don't have this crazy like bird versus bee scenario. We are one species, the human race. We can talk about differences between different humans, but we're all the same species. And this idea that, oh, we cannot function together because we are all just different. Well, everyone's different from each other. You can go look to your neighbor and they can be different from you, even if they have the same skin color, which is crazy. But aside from all that, we're sticking to immigration today. And immigration, by every metric that we like to weigh by, i.e. the economic benefits, the cultural benefits, the societal cohesion, all of which are actually improving, if not stopping. Like, there's nothing bad when it comes to either of those metrics due to immigration. That's all I have to say.
Okay, so thank you for that. What is the sound? Who connected the group? Now we will have a affirmative 2-minute evidence build. So that's going to be you, Hazel. Let me set the timer. And you may begin.
Just a second. I want to bring up this. If you want to go ahead and look up sources. Look in sources. This is the Center for Immigration Studies. It's not explicitly right-wing, but it does give a lot of insight into the immigration as it happens in the United States. You said that immigration gives a lot to the economy, right? I assume that you would be talking about the GDP. And yeah, while it does grow, it doesn't do anything for white people in this country, which by and large, at least I know not anymore, thanks to immigration policies like yours, but at one point in time were the actual base of America. I have really one economic system, and that's why don't we actually, instead of giving brown people and black people all of the jobs that really, I mean, you say that white people don't want to do, that's what all the liberals say, but why don't we give that to teenagers? It doesn't matter if a shirt costs $1 more, that money is going towards white families instead of brown families. Whenever immigrants come in, sure, they may increase the economy, but they don't actually do anything to help the white man. And in fact, they even decrease the wages. Let's see here. Just a second. Let me get to the part what I'm looking for. So this source that I pulled up, I just want to read a little bit from it. The presence of all immigrant workers, legal and illegal, in the labor market makes the U.S. economy, the GDP, an estimated 11% larger, so $1.6 trillion each year. This contribution to the aggregate economy, however, does not measure the net benefit to the native or population. Of the 1.6 trillion increase in the GDP, 97.8% goes to immigrants themselves in the form of wages and benefits. It doesn't matter, in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, if it does increase the economy, because the only thing that does is really make a few millionaires or billionaires a little bit more richer. That's all that does. It decreases wages for the American worker, if they even get any wages at all, due to the increased competition.
Okay, I just wanted to say your evidence build is up, unless OmniFlow wants to give you an extension. Would you like him to
do you have
continue?
anything else you want to like talk about, like evidence-wise, or is this is really it?
I'm done for now.
Okay. OmniFlow,
So you
let
have
me
any more
set the
evidence you're
timer
gonna
up.
like submit, or is that it?
No, you guys are gonna have it back and forth after you finish your evidence build.
That's right.
Okay. OmniFlow, I'm going to, I think it's also 2 minutes for you. So let me give you your 2 minutes and you may go.
Okay. Yeah. So this notion that immigration hurts native workers' wages is just not true. And I not only have this study right here, which is, if you just give me 1 sec.
Link in the sources, please.
Well, it is linked in sources. Sorry about
Okay,
that.
thank you.
It goes over a wide amount of different topics, and the study eventually concludes that wages increase under the average American worker. The only wages that decrease are of high school dropouts. So high school dropouts actually experience what looks to be like a 2% decrease, but then other studies actually alleviate it to 1.1% over time, and then even that entire thing diminishes over time. I have another study that we want to talk about. This one, not particularly to the United States, but I think the economy value of United States and then also France can be kind of correlated toward each other. This one is almost the exact same as the above, and the findings are near identical. Immigrants lead to across-the-board wage increases for all except a small minority of low-educated native workers, and it reaffirms the conclusion that low substitutability between native workers and immigrant workers. So I don't know what this study is that you've linked to me. When I do a quick Google search of the institute that you have linked to me, it is not the most flattering one, that is for sure. It has been actually destroyed by the academic consensus, it seems like, at least to me, just with a quick Google search. So, of course, it would take a while to actually go through and debunk it, or I maybe could just do another Google search searching for the debunking of this argument. But I think that'd be a little bit like too easy. So I'll just leave these. I have more if you want to. It's not just those two. There's an extensive summary on the effects of immigration and on the U.S. economy with a bunch of sources. There's a famous research document by Mario Boatlift, like whatever you want, dog.
Okay, that's your time. So you guys are going to have a 10-minute back and forth, which may be extended if needed be. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So Hazel, if you want to first address the economic argument, could you have like a counter to what I've given you?
Do you have any ability to explain why you think that the money would actually go towards native-born populations?
Well, of course. So I would actually argue that there is like a minimal to slight increase in wages, but wages aren't really the thing we're looking for. When we're looking for like an increase in the economy, yeah, the economy is the GDP, but we have to look at who like results from the economy. Economy is usually brought about by business owners that create business. And as one can guess, if you create a business, you're going to need employees. And what are employees? Well, there's the high skill labor jobs where you can maybe find a manager, you can maybe find a computer scientist, you can maybe find others. But then there's the low skill labor job. Low skill labor jobs are what I would describe as more easily fit for hard workers with not that don't need that much thought, i.e. immigrants, because immigrants usually do not come from the most amazing backgrounds. They usually come from war-torn areas like refugees, or they come from just cities that they're trying to flee based off of an economic problem. But when we look at that, and we look at this influx of low-skilled labor, we go, oh, what's the problem with this? Because as we all know, as you're born into the United States, you are born into a family. So that family can either be rich or poor. And with either of them, there's an option for education. Education usually increases your mental capability. It lets you think about these topics easier. Maybe you get into a college, maybe you get into a trade school. Either way, when you're born into America, i.e. a native worker, you're going to usually more than not going to be in that high skill labor job. You're going to be in the one that requires more mental capability than physical capability, i.e. the work that immigrants usually do. So the benefit isn't necessarily wage increase through workers. It's more along the lines of job increase, because we need people for businesses to work. Like, we need people for businesses to work. The people that we have in the United States want to increase the jobs they want to do. They don't want to do these low-skilled labor jobs. That's what immigrants for.
I want to
The
do it.
entire economy would fall under the idea of not allowing them.
The entire economy would fall if we didn't allow teenagers to work in housing or roofing instead of working at Chick-fil-A. Is that what you're saying? You're saying that the entire economy would fail if we allow teenagers instead of immigrants to work on roofing or whatever.
Well, we have to look at that claim by itself. So it seems like you're making the you're implying that if we got rid of all these immigrants, teenagers would take up the jobs, right?
Yeah, for the most part, they're low skilled. They don't have the wisdom or the job experience.
Okay, so I think a good way to look at if this claim is true is to just look at like what we already know. Pre-COVID, are you aware of pre-COVID, like how the economy?
Yeah, I'm all aware about that.
Okay, so pre-COVID, we had the lowest unemployment rate ever, literally in history. Yet for some reason, we had a lot of immigration, almost the most ever. You know, like, why is it that if we have a bunch of immigration, but a low unemployment rate, that you think if we just got rid of all the immigrants, we would be able to take up the jobs that they already supply?
When you're looking at the economy, you're not looking at like just white people. You're not talking about the native-born population. You know, the teenagers who are working at Chick-fil-A, who are working at McDonald's and making minimum wage. You're not looking at that. You're looking at the entire thing as a whole, including all the multi-billion-dollar corporations that are inside of it. From the standpoint of a common worker and the common man, white man, who is mostly the native-born population of the United States, they are not getting anything from this. They are getting nothing. They're getting Mexican workers working on their roofing. That's what they're getting. A job that is not able to be theirs.
So, I don't know how any of that pertained to what I was asking. So you brought up the idea that these people working in Chick-fil-A would be able to easily replace the immigrants that are working these hard-skilled labor jobs. This is also under the assumption they would even want to do that, and under the assumption that there is a need for that there is a need for us to allow our teenagers to get a job that apparently doesn't exist. Yet when I go over does it actually not exist? And you go, but think of the white people, it doesn't really match up. You know, you completely ignore the idea that if we got rid of all of our immigrants, what would happen to the economy? It would be a downfall.
I'm sure it would be a downfall just because they're already here. I'm talking about no more immigration, and let's try and move those jobs actually back to the native-born population that it's actually supposed to be. Because
what do you mean move those jobs back? I'm curious.
Whatever economic policy would work towards that. I'm not the greatest economics professor. I'm not no economics person.
I'm also no economics professor. I'm a good person of common sense. But anyway, continue.
But what I was saying is that whatever economic policy that they want to institute that would lead towards that end goal is something that I would be in support of.
Well, what's the point of that end goal? To what?
To bring white people back into the job force. My brother cannot get a job.
Wait. Let's talk about that. So we want to bring white people back into the job force. Do you know the unemployment rate of white people right now?
No, I assume it's a lot. Actually, now.
Pre-COVID. Sorry. Do you know the unemployment rate of white people before pre-COVID?
It's the same as it's always been.
What do you mean, same as it's always been?
Just tell me, has it been like an increase or decrease?
Well, the reason I asked this is because you bring up the claim. You bring up the claim that we need to give the jobs back to the white people because the white people don't have jobs. But for some reason, it seems you don't know the unemployment rate of white people, even though you make this claim.
White people are permanently isolated to working in a service-based economy, like in like fast food and things like that, working for people who actually make a good amount of money.
That's interesting because I actually like to work in places that aren't like that. I would actually like to work in computer science.
I would love to work in computer science. So I'm going to college for that.
I thought you said I was limited. I thought you said I was limited.
Statistics you guys are looking for are actually on my stream right now. If you guys want to use that for evidence.
What are you talking about?
I have.
It wasn't necessarily evidence. It was just to show that this person is arguing for the idea that white people don't have that many jobs, even though he didn't actually know the statistic. But anyway, that's besides the point. We can go into the idea that you said they're like caged into this singular mindset of working these jobs.
All I'm saying, I don't even think it matters, like, what the economics plan out to be, is that the timeline and where we accept massive, unlimited amounts of immigration from Mexico is a timeline where white people get replaced as a majority, and we are. Less than half of babies born in the United States are white. In 1965, 90% of America was white. This is a real phenomenon that is happening.
So-
It is a replacement of the ethnic group, like homogenous group that was America, and leading to a low trust society where everybody hates each other.
So I
which is
want you to
entirely
recognize
Yugoslavia.
exactly. I want you to recognize exactly what you did. We were talking about the economic sides of immigration, that you immediately pivoted or jumped away from to a different point. I want to know why you did that, but we don't even have to go into that. I like to stick to the economic side because I want to either hear you concede that side, saying immigration is far better for the economy, especially because the only study you brought up was apparently opposed to that. Yet it seems like you're so willing to just jump off this subject. So I'd like to stick with the economic side, and if you want to concede it, we can, and we can go on to other aspects. But right now, so let's stick to the economics. Your original claim was that white people were not able to get jobs because of these immigrants, right?
Not specifically because they're not able to get jobs. What happens is that Mexicans come in, they form these collectives together, and they do these jobs like roofing and construction and things like that. They come together and get this work done that could be done by white people. There is a limited amount of roofs that need to be
Gotcha. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a
done,
question.
and construction that needs to be done.
I'm going to ask you a question. It's pretty simple. Are you working under the assumption that white people even want to work these construction jobs?
Absolutely, I would love to do that.
You would.
And it doesn't matter. You get
It
paid
doesn't.
for it. You get paid for it. The fact that it's low wage right now is because Mexicans are able to. They just do it. They don't care.
Okay,
If white people didn't want to do it and they did it anyway, they would force the employer to give them more money for doing it. It would become a $30 an hour job instead of I don't even know what it is right now.
So that's a lot of just like baseless assumptions you're making. But besides that, what's the problem with Mexicans making money?
Because they're not white, and I'm white, and I think a lot of people in this server are white, and they do care more about white interests than foreign nationals.
Well, actually, they're Americans. I'm sorry for using the term Mexicans. I was talking more Mexican heritage immigrants. But what's the problem with Americans making money?
Mexican Americans making money?
Yeah. So
I guess you could say it's
because they're not white.
among racial lines. Yeah, I mean, a lot of white people do care about white interests more than they do
it
Mexican
seems you
interests.
completely jumped away from the economic side. Now you're just saying,
And
well,
bring me
because
back. Well, you're the one who asked me the question. I just answered it.
Well, yeah, but no, the question was originally about economics. So then we started talking, okay, well, what's the economic negative of having immigration? And then you said, well, white people aren't getting jobs. But then I showed you that, well, white people are getting jobs and they're actually being able to get jobs. But why is it that you are still under the assumption that's bad for the economy?
White people are only getting the jobs that are in a consumer-based economy. This is what we live in. We live in a consumer-based economy. White people don't have the jobs like construction. They don't have the real work that they need to actually put on and strap on boots. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is they're sitting in an office job, like fucking killing themselves and crushing their soul because they don't like to, I don't know, program, answer phone calls. There's no place in this world, in this current economic system, where a man can be masculine, and you're part of the problem with that.
Wait, there's no place in this world where, sorry, that's a huge pivot, and that's a weird thing that you said there, that there's no place in this world for a man to be masculine,
That's right.
We want to be that. But aside
Yes,
from
I
that,
do want to be that. And I
aside
think a
from
lot of
that,
men in the server do.
I think you could easily just get a job at a construction company, especially if you want to be quote unquote masculine. I think if you really care about that, I think I'm going to make a crazy statement here. I think a lot of people get jobs to make money. And I think that's why we see a lot of consumer-based white people in these jobs. They work in, say, marketing. They work in, say, analytics. They work in, say, databases. They say work in computer science. There's a lot of these different jobs that just, I think the reason they work that and not construction is because it makes way more money. And I think the reason construction doesn't make that much money is because of the competition in the workforce, which is
why is that? Why the fuck is that? You were just going on about how immigration is amazing for this country, and it's not. It's basically putting down the
no. So you say no. So you say it's bad because of this non-existent problem, and this non-existent problem. This non-existent problem is that you say, well, they take up jobs, so therefore those jobs pay less. Well, yes, that's how
right.
capitalism works. So when you take up a job that doesn't pay that much, of course you're gonna have competition in that field. But if, say, all that competition went away, there'd be you. But the problem is with just you, you're not able to meet the demand of all the people that need that job, therefore raising the price of that job tenfold. Same thing when it comes to agriculture. If you get rid of all these people with these agricultural jobs, the price of agriculture is going to increase tenfold.
What do you say?
Overall, becoming a detriment to the economic system of America and regular Americans.
Paying employees more is detrimental to the economy. I'm sorry, but if you can't get paid for your, did you just say that actually paying your employees for hard work that they do is detrimental to this economy? I'm sorry, but if it's detrimental to the economy, then so fucking be it. It doesn't matter. Like, white people need to be able to feed their families. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if it increases the GDP. White people are getting paid.
If you want people working a minimum wage job to be able to feed their families, I'm all for it.
I'm sorry, but if you can't get paid for it, did you just say that we're actually down on competition in the workforce, so white people actually have the ability to work?
No, so you went from the idea that, oh, these white people aren't able to feed their families because they don't make enough because the Mexicans are working these other jobs. Well, that's not the case as of today at all. And
Mexicans aren't working construction?
Wait,
Mexicans aren't working construction? Is that what you're saying?
There could be some Mexicans.
There's only so many buildings that need to be built, and if all the construction companies are Mexican, then they're the ones getting the money. And if white people were to try and work in that field, they would have
aside from the fact that there aren't really even problems with Mexicans working construction companies, like I don't see an innate problem. Do you have any anything to back this up of what you're saying, or is it just all your feelings?
Well, specifically what? Like, this is how economics works. I don't know if you know exactly how economics works, but the supply and demand. Anybody who knows that, if you have more workers competing for a job, then the wages are going to go down. That's just how that works. No amount of weird links that you can give me will change that. Mexicans are in construction, and that's the reason why the wages are going down.
So it seems like you completely missed my question. So you keep making this claim that Mexicans.
Do you have anything to back that claim? You have to back that claim that you're making.
Yeah, so you keep making this claim that Mexicans are in construction.
Okay, let's go over to my original source that I pulled up over here. Just a second. Let me find something that's relevant for you, and Flo, and you can keep talking because I know you like doing that.
Please let me know where it is in the article, or give me a word to search for that I can find it.
I guess while he's searching
for you keep talking.
So while you're searching for whatever it is that you're searching for, I would like to put in sources this quick little Google search I entered in. Well, I Googled his great name of the people that were giving this beautiful thing that he's searching through right now, this beautiful study. If you want to look in sources, it seems there's been a multitude of different other academic journals debunking the entire Center of Immigration Studies.
Okay, let's take a look.
Okay. CIS research is always questionable because they torture the data to make it arrive at a conclusion they desire, which is that immigrants are criminals and burdens on the U.S. and our economy. It is the worst kind of deception, but politicians, the conservative media, and some Americans eat it up because it always looks somewhat legitimate at first glance.
This is obviously biased. You know that, right? Like, you can see it in the wording, right?
What do you mean? So we can go into
wording. Anyways, SPLC is an anti-white organization that uses their ability to, their hate map, hate watch, all that sort of stuff that they do. They have lists where they can just use to shut down white people by adding their name to a list. We can go over this together and see. You can tell me the bias inside of it. So, cost analysis and impact on the U.S. economy. In May 2010, Camerota claimed that low-skilled so somebody that wrote for CIS, claimed that low-skilled immigrants forced native-born teenagers out of the labor market. However, this is only true based on the 1994 labor force participation rate, LFPR, he cited, which was recorded all the time for high teenagers. The LFPR largely fluctuates regardless of immigration trends. For example, the LFPR in 1960 was the same as 2000s. Moreover, the effective minimum wage needs to be taken into account. If teenagers truly have lower skill sets and are constantly less desirable for employees, the market in theory should adjust itself via wages. However, due to the minimum wage, this doesn't happen, and employers shift to older, more skilled candidates. That is true with or without immigrants.
Low-skilled immigrants don't force teenagers out of the labor market. Economists at Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago agree. We find no compelling evidence that associates the recent decline in teen participation with the greater labor market competition due, for example, to large cohorts of teens or an increase in the number of unskilled workers entering the market because of 1996 welfare reform or change in immigration.
This source is working under the presupposition that illegal immigrants actually obey the minimum wage laws, and a lot of times they don't. They really don't know the reason why the wages are going down so much.
My guy, I don't think you actually read or listened to anything I said. I wasn't talking illegal immigrants. I was talking immigrants.
Yeah, and I think did you not hear what you said? You were talking about how this it was debunked because there are minimum wage laws, so the market doesn't adjust for those. That's what you were saying. That's what the source was saying.
Did you
read it again? Read it again.
Moreover, the effects of minimum wage need to be taken into account. If teenagers truly have lower skill sets and are consequently less desirable for employers, the market in theory should adjust itself via wages. However, to do minimum wage, this doesn't happen and employers shift to older, more skilled candidates.
That's right.
This is true with or without immigrants.
That's right. And a lot of that leads to young people not being able to get the jobs that illegal immigrants are taking up.
But
that it came from your mouth.
Wouldn't that show an increase in teenage unemployment? Which from this
they move. Like teenagers have to get jobs for the most part, especially if they're in hard economic times with their families. If they had to, feed their families, if they actually have to grow up before they're supposed to, then they have to get jobs. And a lot of times that is at fast food, that is at retail. That's why consumerism is getting so big, and it only benefits the immigrants. That's what I'm saying. It only benefits the billionaires, and the immigrants.
So I actually, the first thing I said when we talked about the studies was I provided you one that you've been avoiding for some reason. But the study that I provided you shows that there is a little slight decrease in wages when it comes to high school dropouts, of course, because of course they're going to be competing for the same job. However, when you take into account the rest of America, it increases or shows no decrease.
Okay, I mean, I can tell you that white people, especially white teenagers who are low skilled, don't get into jobs that they are wanting. And I can tell you that in the great long ago, whenever America was a market society, they worked decent jobs.
Wait, how could
they did? Because how could I tell you that? What do you mean?
Yeah, could you please provide something that says they can't get the jobs they want?
The burden of proof falls on you. You have to back that claim.
All right.
You say you can tell me, and that again, aside from the idea that you've been trying to look for something to disprove what I said a while ago that you haven't come up with, but this is another baseless claim saying white teenagers can't get the jobs they want to. Yet for some reason, you have nothing to say for that. You just say it because that's your feelings and you feel like that's correct, but you have nothing to prove it.
Yeah, just 1 second. I got something for you.
Okay, what is it? Is this the first thing or the second thing that you've been looking for?
Just a second.
When you do find it, please place it in sources.
Yes. So let's take a look at this source. Crap, open the wrong shit. That's my painter. In sources. The share of Hispanic workers within the United States labor force has increased significantly since the 1990s, particularly in the construction industry. From 1990 to 2015, the proportion of workers in all industries that identified themselves as Hispanic have doubled, jumping from 7% to 16.4%, and has more than tripled in the construction industry, climbing from 9% to 28.6%. This is a good job. Construction is a good job. It is. It's used to pay well.
Wait,
my point is that white people aren't, especially white teenagers, aren't able to get the traditionally low-skilled labor jobs like construction and like roofing and things that actually involve going outside.
We can go over basic statistics for you. So if you see an increase in one thing and then immediately attribute it to the decrease in something else, that does not prove your claim because that is not an actual causation.
Well, you're competing for the exact same thing, unless you're denying that.
We can talk about how just because Hispanics start to get jobs does not
wait. Are you saying that white teenagers and Hispanics are not competing for the same low-wage jobs?
I mean, possibly. Why?
Because if so, doesn't it make sense that if Hispanics were to go into the construction fields larger than average rates, they would be competing with white teenagers? White teenagers would decrease in that amount. Don't you agree with that? Since they are competing with the same limited amount of jobs,
you're under the assumption that they're not able to get jobs outside of that.
No, I'm not.
Wait,
They are able to get jobs in the service industry. That's why they do it.
So then
It
what's the
doesn't
problem?
decrease. It doesn't decrease unemployment because
Wait,
white people are able to get jobs. They just have to move to the.
That's just capitalism. What's the problem with that?
They have to move. It's not fulfilling. Do you want to work serving some boomer burgers at McDonald's?
Wait, so are you able to quantify the fulfillment people get from construction compared?
No,
to
I'm not. But I can tell you it's a lot more. I think everybody in this chat will agree with me.
Wait, so you say you can tell me it's a lot more based on what? Your feelings, right?
I think everybody can agree with me on that one. That
So I'm going
construction
to
is
ask
a lot
you-
more masculine for one, and two, pays or used to pay more than working at McDonald's.
So I'm gonna ask you again. What's your proof for that? That people want to work this over other jobs?
I guess it's just more masculine. I can't white people are being emasculated by working these shitty jobs that are in the service-based economy. It's true. It's true. There is no space for white masculinity in the modern world, and the only people that benefit from this are billionaires and immigrants.
So you keep making that claim that the only people that benefit are billionaires and immigrants. You completely disavow my study that I've given you. But besides from that, we can talk about the basis claim that people like it more because it's more masculine.
I know people don't like it more because it's more masculine. It's more fulfilling of a job because it's masculine, and it's more conducted to a healthy society.
So wait. So first of all, there's a lot of assumptions that you're going with. One, that people are more fulfilled in a construction job than say a job saying being a doctor, a job being a lawyer, a job being a computer scientist.
That's not low skilled.
Wait, did you just switch to low skilled?
No, I said that's not low skilled.
Wait, so you're just talking about low skilled?
We're talking, yes, because a lot of people are low skilled. That's what we're talking about right now. Immigrants are low skilled. They're not going to become doctors, or at least not the illegal ones.
Okay, so now this just goes to the idea that we need a lot of low skilled labor.
We don't. We don't. No.
Wait, why not?
Because I don't know what you're talking about. There's like a certain rate, amount of low skilled labor that we need, and a certain amount of medium skilled, and a certain amount of CEOs that we need. I don't know what you're talking about. Are you saying something different?
I can easily explain it to you. So if we create a job, say we create a landscaping job, okay? They're plentiful. You have the high skill labor, the one that contacts everything, that does the budgeting, that does the analytics. How many of those do you need? Do you think in this job?
Not that many.
Yeah, one, maybe two. How many low skilled do you need?
Decent bit.
So, do you think education raises high skill or low skill labor?
It raises high skill labor. Where are you going with this? Are you just trying to
we're almost going.
Let's go for it then. Let's get to the point.
We're almost there. So, if it raises high skill that you disagree with me for, do you think children of today's society go to school more or don't go to school more?
What are you talking? Do they go to school more than what? Than like the 1900s? Yeah, they do.
I'm saying, do you think children, like if you had a 50-50 bracket, like what would be created more? Do you think 50% of kids or 51% of kids go to school as opposed to the other, or like which do you think is more? Do you think more kids go to school or more kids don't? I
think a decent amount of kids go to school. Are you trying to say that just because they go to school? Do you think that just because they go to school they're able to work in these higher?
I also agree with that. Don't worry. So we're gonna go now to
if I could just go to college and get an absolutely amazing job working at some top level position, then I would. But a lot of people who go to college are working in fast food.
We're going to go to the next point. So if we have a lot of kids going to school, do you think more kids graduate or drop out?
I couldn't tell you the rates. What do you
just use your head real quick? What do you think?
Do like over 50% graduate?
Yes.
Probably.
Okay. So when we do that, do you think that over 50% of the kids that graduate high school are going to go into low skill labor jobs?
Yes.
Really?
I think that kids who graduate high school, yes, they will absolutely go into low skill job because everybody has a high school.
Perfect. So if we look at that, if we look at what you just said, if I brought to you evidence that maybe not all high schoolers, go into low skill labor job and it's more just like high school dropouts, would you then believe me?
I mean, a lot of people who have a high school diploma are still in low skilled jobs, including me. I mean, I'm in college right now, but still.
Okay. Well, high school dropouts account for only about less than 10% of the population.
Yeah, I know. There's not that many. I don't know why you're bringing them up.
Well, because high school dropouts primarily make up low-skilled labor jobs. Right? You agree with me on this?
Not primarily, because there's not enough of them.
Wait, what do you mean? So if there was
So
not enough,
10%
if there was not, wait. If there was not enough of them, wouldn't unemployment like pre-COVID be like pretty high then?
No, I don't think so.
Wait, but so we're gonna go with your logic. So we just said, okay, high school dropouts usually take up low-skilled labor jobs. They account for less than 10% of the population. And then I say,
So we need more.
do you think we're going to be going to low-skilled labor jobs? You say, not necessarily, because there aren't enough of them. Okay, so based off that you saying there's not enough low-skilled labor jobs, they then would increase unemployment because they can't get a job, right?
I'm sorry, this bot.
What? What's confusing? I'll slow it down for you. Don't worry.
You have the bot muted. All right, never mind. Sorry, repeat what you're saying.
Okay, so if we know the population of high school dropouts, and we know the high school dropouts are accounting for low-skilled labor, and then we know the unemployment rate, and you make the claim that high school dropouts can't get jobs because of immigrants.
I'm not talking about high school dropouts. I'm talking about most people.
Okay, so even if we incorporated most low-skilled labor people, do you think that unemployment rates would increase with increase of immigration?
Unemployment would probably increase, but I know that's not happening.
Then why are you for this? Why is this?
Why am I against immigration?
No. So we just went through this. You agreed with me after initially disagreeing.
And you're gonna post something that says that actually unemployment goes down whenever there's more immigration. Yeah, I know, because there's a lot of they become entrepreneurs a lot of the time.
No. So now that you've agreed with me in everything we've said, now you've agreed with everything I said. We're gonna bring it back all the way to the beginning where I said, when people create jobs, you need more low-skilled labor. And as you need more low-skilled labor, when you have people graduating high school and going into college, or graduating high school going to a trade school, that's a lot of high-skilled labor. And
you believe in raising the minimum wage, right? And you're not going to do that by importing a bunch of third world savages. I'm sorry, you're not.
Loaded claim there. But it's okay.
I know.
I'll put aside your childish gambits for a second and continue my point, because you completely interrupted me. But we can continue this where if more people graduate high school and they create these high-skilled labor jobs, but high-skilled labor jobs actually need a lot of low-skilled labor jobs to be able to function, right?
Are you saying that there's not enough low-skilled labor jobs? Because last time I checked, that their pay was pretty small, and it used to be a lot more, and the economy was better back then. Believe it or not, we don't need Mexicans to operate a functioning economy.
Hey, whoa.
You have to back that claim.
That's a crazy claim. You said the economy was better back then.
You have to back that claim.
Yeah. So you keep going with these baseless claims as if to appeal to like emotion. Like, oh, you use a lot of better. Use a lot of, oh, it was great. Oh, so much more.
I'm sorry, but it was. Do you want me to shut my mouth?
Well, yeah, you said, wait. So you say better, great, more. These are all really abstract, don't you think? You're not really giving like a definitive answer. I can give you.
Are you saying that 1950s America wasn't better than 2020s America?
100%. Well, to the extent of like economy-wise,
just better.
What do you mean?
It doesn't matter if it's subjective, because you'll agree with me.
Wait, what do you mean better?
1950s America was better than 2020s America.
The one of the worst Americas that could possibly ever exist, of course.
No fires started by Antifa. No Black Lives Matter riots burning down cities, but it was still horrible. Is that what you're saying?
So, I'm going to address this huge pivot in about like one time, and then I'm not going to continue. Yes, I think that 1950s America was way worse than 2020 because acts like Jim Crow laws still existed. But that's just my point of why.
Doesn't matter for the entirety of the rest.
Now we can go back to immigration.
And the economy worked without Mexicans, and it was a 90% white. It doesn't matter because black people were oppressed, right? Because that's all you seem to care about.
Now we can go back to immigration, and we can go back to the economy being the best it's ever been.
It's the best it's ever been. Sure, the GDP's been the highest because there's
the best it's ever been. Yes, okay. I think the economy's been the best it's ever been pre-COVID, of course. Aside from maybe like when we looked at like the amount of jobs being created, the amount of people that were actually employed pre-COVID, the amount of just progress we were making in technological advances, standard of living, I thought it was all pretty good. You know, everyone had an iPhone.
We went to the moon.
Everyone had an iPhone. It's perfect.
In 1965, we went to the moon. So it's an impossible feat, and you don't care about any of that because black people were oppressed. Do you think that minimum wage in my state being $7.25 is okay? That people have to work that, especially whenever they don't have job experience.
We can talk about how atrocious the United States was pre-2020, pre-Jim Crow laws being abolished. But right now we're talking about immigration. It seems you keep trying to pivot away from this point. It's kind of ridiculous.
I'm not trying to pivot away from immigration. I'm not. I'm actually talking about immigration. I'm talking about how it affected white American lives, and it has affected it very negatively.
Wait, but for you to say it affected it very negatively, you have to bring up a single claim for that, or a single basis for that claim. I've given you multiple. You give me one that when we went over it together, realized it was incredibly biased and incredibly smudged data. So when we look at these things, and you say immigration is awful, yet you haven't given me a single reason that is held up for making immigration awful. It's a bit weird.
How about the fact that there are so many people on pills now, medication, because they're depressed? They have prescription happiness that they take. Society is becoming worse. It was a lot better under the Jim Crow laws that you hate so much. It was, because at least people weren't on pills back then.
You've pivoted away from immigration.
Clyde, it's okay. I got this. Clyde, it's okay. Clyde, it's okay. I got this.
No. I got this. Your solution is replacing white people because it's more economic. It isn't, which it isn't. It isn't more economic for white people to do that.
So I'm going to resort back to the stuff that I gave you, where jobs are being created through immigration, wages are being increased, or just not crazily affected. They're either increasing or not decreasing at all. So I think that's a good thing to look at, and you keep saying white people are being affected so harshly.
They are being harshly affected. Can you not see that? Do you not see?
I can't, because every single study that I brought up, every single empirical data.
Black Lives Matter? How about is it really that economic for cities to be burned down because Black Lives Matter more than stuff? That doesn't seem very economic to me.
I'm gonna have to stop right there.
Why are they stepping in?
This debate is about pre-COVID first, and those were all during COVID. And the second part is you can't make those claims like that without backing them.
Part of the reason why we even have the coronavirus is because of globalism, which he's still not in favor of.
King Clyde, I got this, please. So I'm going to reel you back. You keep saying you want to come back to immigration, you love to, but then you keep immediately jumping over to other things like BLM. So we can talk about that on another day. Right now, we're talking about
the reason why we're talking about pre-COVID is because a lot of the reason why we even have the coronavirus is because of globalism, which is what you believe in.
So when we talk about these things like immigration, we have to talk about the effects of immigration outside of a national pandemic due to a geological factor. So when we look at these things through a strict economic lens, which you so far have yet to concede that it is good for the economy.
It's not.
Based on
the fact that the GDP does not affect the average white person.
Okay, so
and the fact that I'm working at Chick-fil-A over working in construction, which used to pay a lot more.
When we talk about that, your basis for worse has to be you've got to have a basis for it being worse, i.e. wages, i.e. something weird happens, they all lose their jobs, what is bad, and show me evidence for it being bad. Don't give me a graph saying, look at the Mexicans getting jobs. Show me how it's affecting the native population.
What's your job?
What?
What's your job?
What's my job? Why does that matter?
What's your job? Because I'm asking you. That's all that matters. What's your job?
I'm a computer scientist.
You are. Congratulations. Well, you're not a low-skilled labor.
I don't want to be a low-skilled labor.
Well, I kind of am. I work in retail, and I'd much rather work in construction than retail. Unfortunately, whenever I applied, they didn't call me back.
Wait,
and I had a feeling that's the same story for a lot of the people.
That's crazy.
Especially young men in the United States.
That's crazy. If that's the case, you could easily just pick up a study showing that. It's perfect. Could you please show me? If that's the case, if all these youth can't actually get these jobs, there's got to be thousands of study on this, right?
No, because this system is an anti-white system, and anybody who tries to make papers that bring about race realism get shouldered out of academia. Like that guy in 2015 who had to sell his Nobel Peace Prize after he couldn't get a job in science after he made a research paper on race and IQ.
I'm actually well aware.
Okay, guys.
Please let me respond to that. Please.
And flow. I kind of want to hear what they have to say.
I'm going to. So aside from that person, I'd gladly address, but we can do that on a later topic, and let's stick to immigration because you keep running away from it. But aside from that, you have yet to give a single empirical evidence, a single stat that is pointed to white people losing jobs and losing money. You make the claim.
You don't need to really think about it that hard. All you got to do is realize that there are a limited amount of rules that need to be, what do they call it? shingled. There's a limited amount of roofs that need to be shingled, and there are a limited amount of jobs that need to be done, that need to be created to do that. If there are more Mexicans in construction and shingling, then there are obviously going to be less white teenagers doing that. And honestly,
Wait,
honestly,
I'm
you
just
know,
gonna interject really quickly. I
If
rarely
he-
do, but if it's so easy, like or whatever, like
Please
we just
stop.
need you to provide sources.
No,
when
Aggie,
you
please.
say-
I've got this. So it looks
Alright.
really bad when everyone keeps jumping in when I've got this. Okay?
Yeah, and it's interesting how they're only jumping in for you. It's supposed to be right wing.
Okay, guys. Impartial, please. So I can address the judges or the moderators about how I haven't really made any claims without backing it up. Yet you haven't. So
I have
assume-
those sources. I don't know if I posted as many. I've posted one less than you did.
Okay. So again, I don't care about how many sources you post. I care about how many claims you make, and then don't give a source to back it up. You make the claim that white youth are not able to get jobs in America because of Mexicans, and then to back it
They
up,
are able to
you
get the
say-
jobs that they want, and the jobs that they want are not dead-end jobs like working at Chick-fil-A or McDonald's. And this is the truth.
To back it up, you do not give any evidence to support that claim. You simply say,
I don't have to
because
have a
I
source
can
to say that
see it
working in
happening.
construction is one, not a dead-end job, and two, is more conducive to masculinity than working at Chick-fil-A. I don't need a source for that. That's common sense.
so common
Something that you don't
sense only goes. So common sense only goes so far when you're talking about an economic system. You can say, oh, well, I want to work a job with the most money. But under your idea, that's not common sense, because common sense is man needs to be construction-ger. That's essentially your common sense. I'm sorry, but I'm a bit more nuanced and maybe have a bit more sense than you might for your common standards. But aside from that, we then have to go on to when you say, it's around you. Just look around. You can easily tell. If it's so easy, it shouldn't be hard to provide a single stat agreeing with you. I can provide multiple stats that disagree with
Name
you,
something.
but yet you throw it away.
Name something.
What?
Name something. The fact that it isn't masculine to work at Chick-fil-A, I don't need a source for that. I've already told you. You're telling me to get all these sources. Well, what are you talking about? I don't
Well,
need a source to say that a Chick-fil-A is not masculine.
Because
It's not.
when you say
In fact, most women will.
Chick-fil-A isn't masculine, first of all, that's a subjective claim. Second of all, you're
Okay,
saying
it's
masculine.
subjective.
Second of all, you're saying masculinity is an attribute to, I don't even know what, fulfillment?
It's being masculine is a lot more fulfilling than being feminine, doesn't man? I can tell you
Okay,
that much.
so that is another claim. So do you know what a claim is? I can Google it for you.
Oh, I know all about the claim. Okay.
Okay, so
You don't
that's a
need to tell
claim.
me.
So do you understand that that's a
Do I
claim?
need a source to tell you why masculinity is good for men? Because
Why
I don't think most people would need that source. I think that's
I can go into masculinity. I can even go into things like toxic masculinity. I can go into a multitude of different reasons as why masculinity can be harmful for a person. I can go into the white suicide rates of middle-aged men because of toxic masculinity. I can go into all these things.
all because of
but I
toxic
don't.
masculinity.
But I don't.
It's not because they're lonely and nobody loves
But
them. It's because they're toxically
But
masculine.
I don't, because I want to stick to something we agreed to go on before even discussing this topic. Immigration.
You
We're
want to do immigration because it doesn't matter how many how replaced white people are. It doesn't matter how low that percentage of white Americans goes down until it's just 20% and we're like South Africa. It doesn't matter. You don't care about who's getting replaced. You don't. You just care about big number go up and Burger and being fat. That's what you care about. And you know what? Big Burger and being fat is very good for the economy. I will admit, but it's not conducive to masculinity or a healthy society. You've yet to address that. You just talk
Address
about
what?
forces.
Wait,
About
address what?
masculinity, about the reason why white people are so angry in the 21st century.
Wait, white people are angry because they're not masculine?
A lot of them, yeah. That's part of the reason why they're angry. It's a
Oh,
lot.
shit.
Of
Wait, what? Can you like how? I want you to tell me how.
how being masculine,
I'll
not being
pay
masculine
it
when
for
you're
you.
a man makes you depressed. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to be able to tell you how to do that. I
I'll
thought
prove it for
you'd
you, just for
know.
you.
I thought
So-
you'd know.
So when you say if you're not masculine, you're depressed, what do you mean by that?
If a man isn't masculine, if he's feminine instead, he's going to be depressed. Gee, I thought you'd know. How many times do I have to say that?
Well, how can you prove that? Like you have to have something to be able to back that
I
up,
don't
right?
think I need to. I'm sorry,
Wait,
but I
okay,
don't.
okay. So let's wait.
Most men enjoy being men, and most women enjoy being women.
Quantify, like, if we can quantify this, where you say more men are depressed because they aren't masculine. That's a statistic claim. That involves numbers. That involves the amount of people that are depressed due to not being masculine. Are you?
And it's
denying
happening.
that?
But how are you going to quantify that? How are you going to quantify how masculine somebody is?
I'm not the one doing it. You are.
I'm the one. I don't need a source to prove that. Unfortunately, I know you're just nega mind 𝗙𝗏𝗀 over here.
I can give you
all the sources in the fucking world, but guess what? White people are not very masculine. It's actually going and it is leading to them being sad. I'm sorry, but that's one of the major reasons why so many white people are on pills and considered bipolar and autistic by psychiatrists. What
was that?
That's why a lot of people are on pills.
Could you repeat that? Bipolar and autistic?
Bipolar and autistic. Yes, a lot of people are on bipolar and autistic medication. Well, they don't need to be, in my opinion.
Why your opinion?
Why, in my opinion?
Yeah.
Because I don't think there's anything wrong with them. Maybe that's just me. You're going to have me pull up a source for that one too, about my own opinion?
You don't think there's anything wrong with them? Well, I could agree. I don't really think there's that much wrong with autistic people. I just think we don't look at them the same way as we do based on this
think they need to be on medication?
Normalized. I believe people don't think autistic people are normal because that's just not what society.
You agree with me that men being masculine is conducive to a healthy society?
No, not in the slightest. I think men being masculine actually conducts to more suicide rates in middle-aged men.
Why?
Why? Because I think under the idea of a toxic masculinity, where you have to convey your opinions to yourselves, you have to hold in your emotion, you have to be a man, you can't cry, you have to be the one to suppress all these emotions inside of you simply because you're a man.
And you call it toxic masculinity? Because that's not masculinity. Masculinity is having bros that you're able to talk to. I don't know where you got this idea of masculinity, if it's from Netflix or something, but that's not what masculinity is. Have you ever had a male friend?
So it seems like you completely ignored everything that I say. So I'm going to go over
past that. Do it.
Toxic masculinity is the idea that there is something wrong with this notion of you have to be masculine in order to be a man. You have to go with these certain criteria in order to be a man, and you ought to do this simply because you are male. One of those things is easily recognizable in today's culture, i.e. the term be a man. Suck it up. Men don't cry. These things result in men suppressing their emotions. When you suppress your emotions, what does that do? Can you answer that?
Suppressing your emotions?
Yes. What is the harm? Do you think
are you talking about me?
Do you think
because I don't suppress my emotions?
Do you think
I can find myself very masculine? I don't know what you're talking about. My toxic masculinity. I'm very masculine, and I let my emotions loose. Perhaps sometimes too much. Like now, I'm a little bit angry.
Well, I don't think there's any reason to be angry, my friend. We're just having a calm discussion. But anyway,
I'm gonna have to stop you guys right here. You guys have kind of pivoted away from the original point.
We have,
and I'm gonna have to ask you guys to go, both of you guys, to go into your final statement. So the first final statement is by Hazel. You have 2 minutes.
OmniFlow is an anti-white mastermind who wants to use the power of numbers in economics to replace white people. In 1965, white people made up 90% of the population. In 1969, we went to the moon. In 2020, less than half of babies born are white. And a lot of this is due to the massive amounts of immigration, particularly from the third world, like Mexico and, Africa too. I don't know where they come from. And this leads to decreased birth rates by white people because they are simply being outbred. It doesn't matter if being Borger and being fat leads to increased economic growth. It doesn't matter if a t-shirt costs $1 extra, or a job to get your shingles done costs $20 extra in increased wages. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, I would prefer a fascistic and national socialist, racially homogenous America to the one that 𝗙𝗏𝗀 is loving right now. And I think most young white people would too. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, OmniFlow, I'm going to reset the timer, and it falls on you.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think that closing statement was actually extremely telling. He goes on with this idea of people coming into the United States and making it less white is a bad thing. Well, that wasn't the topic at hand. The topic at hand was immigration. I could easily go on about how cultural. Could you please not interrupt my closing statement?
Sorry, it was just so. Just
stop it for a few seconds and let me go. Yeah, just stop really. Okay, so I'm gonna talk for maybe 10 more seconds because I have a lot I gotta say in this closing statement. When it comes to what you said, I believe the terms were an anti-white mastermind who believes in power of math and numbers. This is where I start to say that it's very telling that an insult of yours was that I believe in math and numbers. That was an actual insult that you sent at me because I was able to bring up statistics and empirical. I was able to bring up statistics and empirical evidence to disprove everything that you've said about immigration, how it's harmful to the economy. I did not want to have you pivot to say a cultural debate because I could destroy you in a cultural debate as well. We talk about these things about immigration when you make the claim that it's bad for the economy. You can't give me a single point that is actually bad for the economy. You say white kids are not able to get jobs. I show you that white kids actually are able to get jobs. You say the wages actually decrease. I show you the wages increase. You give me anything that it points to a bad economic system because of immigration, and I point to you the exact opposite. Not with my feelings, the things you like to use, with actual evidence, with actual statistics, with actual empirical data. I don't like going off your feelings to make these important factual claims. I like it when we're able to point at the unemployment rate, the GDP increase, the wage increase over time. I like to point at all of these different aspects in today's society and then make a claim off of that. My claim being immigration is nothing but a net benefit to the economy. You started going off about how immigration hurts the white homogeneity, but that's not the debate you wanted to point into. Your first claim was about economics, and that's what we stood for. Everything you said about economics was so economically illiterate, it hurt me. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, thank
Can
you.
you stop lying next time you do a closing statement?
Before you start again,
Come on,
before you start again, I would like to say thank you guys both for participating. I want to ask Mooney, Aggie, MPX Todd, and then Panini, stay here. We'll move you in. I want you guys to go to the Council VC. I gave a moderation perms for just this channel to Grand Wizard Man. Please mod them talk